Vignette number 103 from Zen Is Right Here, Teaching Stories and Anecdotes of Shunryu Suzuki. A student said, "I compare myself to other students and feel inadequate. I haven't read anything about Buddhism." "Oh, that's the best way to come to practice," Suzuki Roshi answered. That was Tassajara, 1967, Louise Pryor. Louise Pryor was Louise Welsh back then. She came in with Dan Welsh. They came in, before the first practice period. And Dan was the only American there who had experience in Japanese monastery. And Louise had gotten together. He did that while he was in high school for like a year and a half. He was gone a couple of years doing that because he was half a year, I think, studying Japanese in Hawaii on the way and staying with the Hawaii Zendo that Robert Aiken ran. But so Louise got together with him when he came back, and they had been around the Berkeley Zendo, but he'd had enough Zen for a while. But then he came back to help with Tassajara, and he was I always called him my Eagle Scout. Louise and he came in, and they were very stylish. They looked, beautifully dressed. She had the long, flowery dress, like really hippie. And he had long hair. After a while, he had a shaved head, but they were both hard workers and really good people in the community. But she just hadn't had any experience with that. And bang, she just had to jump right into it, and sit Tangaryo, where we sat for the first Tangaryo was 3 days. It was actually 2 3/4 days. It ended in the afternoon of the third day, just sitting all day, no walking meditation. I mean, you could move, you could even stand up, you just couldn't leave your place. And, it'd be a break after meals. So, it's all brand new. She just comes into it, and there's all this zazen during the day and the regular schedule and work and chanting sutras and all this stuff. And so she said that to Suzuki. Well, she wanted to be a student, but that just sort of was overwhelming, And you can understand. Didn't really know that much about it, hadn't read anything about Buddhism, and he said, "Oh, that's the best way to come to practice." And that's no joke. That's no joke. I've mentioned that in other podcasts, so there may be some other mini podcasts here, that, I'd suggest that people go to the Zendo first and see if they can figure out what's happening there before getting a zazen instruction. And I sort of picked that up from him, I guess. He would teach very little bit here and there. He didn't lead with intellectual study. However, he studied a lot. He lectured a lot from what he was studying, and people there did study a lot on their own, depending. Some did, some didn't. But there was this saying that many people knew, that Zen is the way beyond words and letters. And So there, is that idea. And that's true. That all spiritual practice is beyond symbolic thought and that sort of thing, but it also includes it. Uh, and who was it? Some Sufi said, they were talking about in the in Sufism, there's some teaching, to throw away all the teachings. But it said before you throw away the teachings, you've got to have studied them and know them, because you can't throw away what you don't have. Now, I just read that in might have been Jacob Needleman's book, The Six Religions, in his part on coming to Tassajara. Anyway, the way beyond words and letters includes words and letters, and and I've mentioned this before too. I repeat myself a lot, I'm sure. The lineages that tried to continue with only zazen, only sitting, only practice, they did not continue. You need, everything we give up, we also include in one way or another. Now, that doesn't mean when you give up lying, cheating, stealing, killing, take vows, it doesn't mean you include them, but you include them somewhat. I mean, you can look at you can't, Bodhidharma, in his interpretation of the precept, said that the only way to follow the precept of don't lie is not to speak. Try living without killing. Try living for 1 minute without killing. I mean, there's life and death going on within us. Every time we take a step, we're probably crushing civilizations of little mini creatures. But, anyway, I think we've sort of come to the end of commenting on this. But it is food for thought. Oh, that's the best way to come to practice. This has been a Cuke Audio mini podcast. I'm DC Puba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sanur with Dogette Bandita, Feline Cochita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.